welcome back to another fantabulous episode of the Shadow Mark podcast. I hesitated there again because we had just talked about Forever Broken. I was like, oh shit, yeah, we're not that anymore. So I do that Shadow Mark podcast. We're live and in charge tonight. We're very excited to be here as always. It's going to be a good show. I'm pretty excited about tonight. I'm Derek Thompson. With me always is the lyrical mistress, TJ Django Davidson.
What's up?
And with us tonight is Mr. Loren. I'm going to have TJ go ahead and introduce him, and then we'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, so very special guest tonight, Mr. Loren Sauser. Very good friend of mine. We served together. And Loren, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the people, give kind of a little bit of your backstory, your military time and stuff like that, and we'll just go from there.
Sure, brother. So I got in the Corps in 2010, got out in the spring of 2014. Actually, it's been, what is today? May 13th, 14th. So I've been out for 9 years today, I think. So spent my time in New River with TJ and some of the other boys. I was an Ordie. Spent my time in the desert, May of 13 to November of 13. Got out. Once I got out, I went into the private fire protection industry. Jumped ship from there about a year and a half ago and made my way to the state as a agent for the state fire marshal's office. So that's where I'm hanging out right now, man.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. I love it, man. So you said you're working for the state now. What's kind of involved in that? What goes into that for you?
So as a state fire marshal for Oklahoma, we are responsible for conducting fire investigations, basically outside of any entity that doesn't have a fire investigator on staff, right? So most of your small town rural fire departments. I think TJ's on a small fire department over there. I'm on a small fire department over here. So anytime that we have some fires that we feel like need investigated, the state comes in and they conduct the investigation for us. On the other side of that, we do code enforcement. So all commercial building codes outside of a big city, we go through and do the code enforcement piece. So
that's pretty fantastic. So we got someone out there keeping us safe, I guess, which is
trying to anyway.
Really matters.
So you're calling it OSHA of the fire world, then?
But strictly to fire, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't deal with all of the, the OSHAs, the CFRs, and things like that. I got one code book, right? The fire code, and as long as everybody abides by the fire code, we're happy campers, man.
Nobody does that. Nobody follows the rules.
Nobody does that, especially right now in Oklahoma. We've got an industry that's blowing up on us, and still trying to learn the ways of the world, and we're just trying to help them get there. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I know a lot of those guys, they just have a hard time. Like, they're like, what do you mean we have to have exit signs within 6 inches of the so-and-so? And you're just like, yeah.
And then you run into the folks who are like, well, when did that come about? When did that happen?
1972, man. You're a little behind the fucking.
It's happened since the beginning of building, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You're like, yeah, when Betsy kissed that or kicked that candle into the big ass building in Chicago, what are you talking about?
Exactly. We burned down half the city of Chicago overnight, right? Something's got to give.
Yeah, there were rules put in place then, man. It's like that was a long time ago. Get on bus. But
it comes with its goods and its bads, man. I mean, you deal with a lot of people who want to be good, right? They want to follow the rules. They want to do what they've got to do to open up, and then. For those that don't like to, we've got some fancy red stickers that basically tell them that they get to do that or they don't get to occupy the building. So,
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's pretty simple. Just follow the rules, do what you're supposed to do, and have a good time.
Absolutely.
So your time in the service, did you do anything exciting?
Aside from a trip to the desert, I did 3 trips to Yuma. Anybody that's been to Yuma wouldn't really call that exciting, right? But for the Corps world, it really wasn't a bad time, man. So we did the weapons and tactics instructor course. So basically, all the pilots go to this air base in Yuma, and they get put up and basically become an instructor in whatever it is that they become an instructor in. But one thing they use lots of is ordnance, right? The three of us know that very well. And so my time in Yuma is a very memorable times, man. We used to work 12 hours a day and party 12 hours a night. So it was a good time, a really good time.
That was the fun of it, man. You'd just go down there, party, hit up Jack in the Box, in the right across the entrance to Yuma there.
Yep, the Marines pissed off Jack in the Box quite a bit. In fact, when the last couple of times that I went there, we couldn't even walk through the drive-through anymore. Right? They got tired of serving us walking through the drive-through. So
we can't drive when you're intoxicated. You know what I'm saying?
that's what we tried to tell them when we were in the talking to the box. Right? Like, we're trashed. We can't drive a car through here. What do you want? And they wouldn't serve us if we were on beat. So
yeah, we're not allowed to drive drunk. Jeez, we're trying to follow rules here.
Yeah, so we ended up having to either get an Uber or a taxi, literally flip them $5 just to drive us through the drive-through so we could get something to eat. Like, it was ridiculous.
Them dollar tacos, they're so bad.
But they hit the spot when you're that drunk. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
They really did. They really did, man. So you went to Yuma a shit ton, and that's always fun. That's 29 Palms. And then you went to Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you do while you were there?
So Afghanistan as an Ordie, much of the same as WTI, really. They trained you up well. 12 hours on, 12 hours off, 7 days a week for 7 straight months. Not a whole lot of pieces of gear. So my position as I guess what we would call a collateral duty inspector in the Corps was more of a quality assurance inspector, as a civilian would attribute that.
Right.
But basically just getting these boys to crank out these pieces of gear, make sure they were ready to put on the birds and stamp them. But one thing that happens in Afghanistan is those pieces of gear don't get turned out as often as they do at home. So
right.
I think altogether we probably had 5 or 10 pieces of gear in my 7 months that really needed some detailed work. And every once in a while we'd get lucky. We'd get to go out to the airstrip and help the squadron go put that stuff on the bird or try to figure out, troubleshoot some stuff under a bird on the airstrip. But
what shop were you CDI in?
so I was guns and the armory. So basically M89,
boy,
the M89, the 20 millimeter cannon, the turret, and then in the armory we did the GAU 21 was my beast.
Yeah, I love the GAU 21.
But yeah, that was it, man. I mean, Afghanistan was a much slower life than I think most people would expect it to be, at least at our level, right? I'm sure there were some folks that were busy out there, but it was much slower for us. I finished my associate's degree while I was in Afghanistan. Got that knocked out. But that was really it. Several bomb threats, of course. A couple of trucks blew up in the entrance lot. We had a couple of vehicle-borne IEDs try to come in the gate on us, but they're not very smart or tactical when they do that. So basically, what they came out to be, the first dude detonates the car. The plan is to open up the fence so that the second guy can come in. Well, they were too close together, so premature detonation.
Well, like it goes. You sit there and you go with it.
You'll have that from time to time,
Yeah, especially
every so often.
And then we had a few months. They started to take some meals away, so we had to, live like the grunts and live on MREs for a few months. But it wasn't too bad.
So you were in with TJ.
Yes, sir.
You were so lucky. I'm so jealous I didn't get to spend time at the base with him. I only got to spend time in Afghanistan with him, but it was a good time there too with him,
Like all the horse fuckery that happened in Afghanistan, like it was just as bad stateside.
I'll kick it over to TJ and let him kind of reminisce with you and talk about all the fun stuff you guys did.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, we had a lot of good times, man. No, like my experience in Afghanistan was I didn't do ordnance things. So I really didn't get to experience that side of it very much. Like I hung out with you guys for a little bit until somebody else needed something that I was kind of sent off with them. But stateside with Loren here, we well, I did. I got in a lot of shit. But Loren, is there something that like stands out to you that we did?
Dude, it seemed like every time we had a chance, the gunny had something to say to you. Like it was never a dull moment, right? Never a dull moment. Gunny always had something to say to TJ. But my first world in the fleet, right? The mystical fleet that is, right? I meet TJ. He's my fellow Oklahoman. And I mean, it was at that point that I realized that TJ's the guy to hang on to for now, because I don't know anybody else in here, but TJ's from Oklahoma and we're going to get along great. Right. So TJ kind of showed me the way of the fleet for the most part.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
And then we met Sergeant Heineman, right? We had to deal with his shit from time to time. He was our neighborhood hard ass, right? So if you didn't do something right, Sergeant Heineman was going to light you up. And the first time we're in the fleet, the guy that checked in with me, I think I checked in with Soboleski, but I can't remember who was there with me. But we checked in, and the captain before Captain Parrott. Do you remember who he was? I can't remember what his name was.
Yeah, I remember. I'm not going to say his name.
But he comes in and he's in civvies, and so we don't recognize him, right? So he comes in, we're sitting at the desk, and he comes in, he good morning or whatever it was. He walks back to his office, and then here comes Sergeant Heineman tearing our asses because we didn't stand up for the OIC. Like, the dude's in civvies. I've never met the guy in my life, but it's my ass. I should have known. Yeah, I should have known. So
yeah, he smells important. Stand the fuck up. You know?
Right. He's coming in a jersey. Yeah, he better no camis here. So.
I can sniff him out.
Yeah. So that was my first experience, my first day in the mystical fleet, that is. But no, TJ and I mean, I can't. Once we settled down, TJ, you lived with us.
Yeah.
For at least 6 months to a year, right?
Yeah.
Off of Burgaw Highway. That was our Call of Duty days. We played the shit out of some Call of Duty. TJ occupied my guest bedroom for probably close to a year.
Yeah.
We tried to still play some Call of Duty. We'll get you on there.
I'm just as terrible now as I was then.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't think I've regularly played since Warzone, right? Since COVID and the whole mess that was the pandemic. I mean, I pretty much lived there.
Let's get you on there. It'll be a good time, man.
Yeah, let's do
it. Because we're all terrible.
But for anybody that hasn't been out to North Carolina, right? North Carolina's full of moonshine. Like that's what we partied on, moonshine.
No, that's the way to do it, man.
I had to repaint my bathroom. Really? Moonshine. Oh yeah. I didn't know you could even do that.
I didn't know you could do that either. Explain this.
So we had I think it was my going away party. We had a little party in the backyard, and somebody decided to bring some apple pie moonshine and some peach pie moonshine, and
that sounds good.
And it was wonderful. But I followed up the jar of moonshine by eating the peaches. Right, and when
you do
at that point, it was all over, and so I get kicked to the bedroom, and I look to the wife, tell her I don't feel good. Right, something's about to happen. We're about to call up some dinosaurs, and I made it about 3 steps into my bathroom, and I called them dinosaurs up, clean across the wall, man. The acid ate the paint off the wall. It was the most ridiculous thing.
That's fantastic. I love that for you. That's a good time for anybody, really.
Yeah. That was my farewell gift of North Carolina. Yeah, that was it.
Well, there's worse gifts to get, I guess.
Well, we used to go to I used to go to right behind the Walmart, and you could acquire all these pallets of wood. You know what I'm saying? So we'd load all the trucks up with these pallets of wood to have a big old bonfire. And I remember,
grassless backyard.
yeah, I remember one time we we had like 3 truckloads of pallets right there in Loren's backyard. Just a big ass fire.
Give me a minute. Next time we take a break, I'll bring in. I've got one picture of all of us in the backyard. I've got.
Hey, anytime you need to take a break, you just take a break. We'll bullshit through it like we do. You know what I mean?
No, I hear you. Yeah, snag that picture up, and yeah, we had some good times. I didn't have much of a yard, but we'd bring all the empty boxes that we had to get rid of from the build up point. We'd burn those old tubes and boxes. Man, we had all the wood you could burn. We had everything out there.
Oh, I'm sure you did, because you go big or go home, right?
Absolutely, yeah. A bonfire is not a hot dog fire. It better get called in as a house fire, right? You ain't doing it right.
Yeah, it's a booze fire.
That's right. That's right.
Well, TJ, you're kicking this whole thing shindig. You're running this.
Oh, perfect. So this isn't going to end well.
God. I'm just here for the stories right now, man.
Oh, shit, me too. So outside of that, Loren, is there anything else that you can think of that caused us some issues while we're there, besides with Heineman?
Issues. I mean, it was almost like being back in high school to some level.
No, yeah.
Right? Like there was just gobs of garbage that would just circulate. It never seemed like any drama really had a leg to stand on, but it was just somebody had something to say just to spark some bullshit, right? I mean, right. Facebook was starting to come around. I think probably 2010, 2011, and so you'd have your occasional shit that gets stirred up on it because you put a post on Facebook, but it didn't match what you told somebody else. I mean, I wish I could make that shit up, but I actually got threatened. I got threatened to get NJP'd because I put a post. I put a post on Facebook about wanting to go hunting the next day, but I had come down with shingles after one of my return trips from Yuma. Right? I mean, no sleep for 3 months. Like it was bound to happen. I got a tooth yanked and came down with shingles, and I came in the next day, and one of the staff sergeants that was on duty, he threatened to NJP me because I claimed that I was going hunting, and same reason that they can NJP you for getting a sunburn, right? Destruction of government property or some bullshit. But
right.
But yeah, I mean, it never ended. It was always there was always something wrong with somebody, man, and ultimately that was probably what one of the biggest reasons I got out was just that clash in a lot of personalities that I had with a lot of my leaders at the time. They just never seemed to want to lead to an extent, right? We had a couple of leaders that I felt were really strong leaders, but for the most part, it seemed like everybody was just there for themselves, and that was kind of a frustrating time. So.
Well, the whole NJP thing, that is a joke anyways. I mean, I got like 37 of those. Not a big deal, you know.
TJ,
and for the Army folks, those are like Article 15s, field grade. But yeah, got a few of them also. Anyhow, you know, everybody says it's gonna destroy your career. It won't destroy your career. Like it fucks mine, but that's my own fault because I just didn't stop with them. But I was trying to rack up like a like trying to reach it. Yeah, I was trying to reach a goal, like like the best ever to get like this many and still stay in. And obviously, like I didn't stay in because I got too many of them, so that didn't pan out for me. But I mean, you gotta pull out your head, I guess. But
I think I've got an NJP that might trump a few though. I forgot about this until just now, right?
Oh boy!
So we made Marine Corps times for killing an alligator.
I remember that.
Right. I almost went to jail in the civilian world and the Corps world because apparently killing alligators in the state of North Carolina was the same thing as killing an endangered species or some shit. Right. So back in 2011, several of us buddies were out on another buddy's property. So he had a house that lived on a river. I think it was the Blue River, maybe. I can't even think of it now. But he had a 3-year-old daughter. And anybody that knows anything about alligators, right? Alligators tend to come back up on the land when they're hungry. They're looking for something. And anybody that knows kids, they're curious, right? They're curious creatures. They're going to touch everything. And so one of these neighbors were feeding an alligator. It came up on the shore, and we chased it into the river. Subsequently, blew its brains out with a 12 gauge and attempted to bring it back up and process it. We weren't going to waste it. So we process it. We're out there till 2-3 o'clock in the morning, getting it cut up, getting the meat put in the freezer. Buddy calls me, I don't know, 7-8 o'clock in the morning, the very next morning, and the only thing he says is to the game warden wants to see you, and you need to bring your gun. I'm like, well, shit. So we get drawn back out to his house. We get knocked down by the game warden for 2, 3, 4 hours. He's playing with his handcuffs, doing cop things, and we think we're all going to jail. And at the end of the day, he issues us a court order for, I think it was October 30th or October 31st of that year, right? I remember it well because my son was fixing to be born. I mean, I think my son was going to be born about 2 weeks after that. And so my wife's trying to figure out how she's going to deal as a single woman when her husband's in jail. We're trying to figure out how we're going to pay, what we're going to pay, where we're going to jail at. And so we show up to court that day, and the judge literally laughs out loud, right? Like he's on the stand. He gets read the charge, the unlawful killing of the American alligator, and he laughs out loud at us. And so we kind of look at each other because basically there was 4 of us involved. But 2 of us kind of had the bulk of the charges because he cut him up and I'm the one that did the shooting, right? So him and I are standing in court. Judge laughs out loud, and the game warden freaks out, and he's like, no, Your Honor, no. He brings up the big fat law book, and he's like, right here. And he basically just looks at us, and he's like, well, I'm afraid we're going to have to impose the minimum. And so, okay, we look at each other. Well, what's the minimum? So we ended up paying, I think between the 2 of us, we ended up paying $4,500 in restitution. And and we went on probation for, I think we were on probation for 60 days or 90 days. It was until the fines were paid. So we went to the bank as soon as court was over, pulled out a loan, paid the fines off that day. So we had one whiz quiz with the probation officer. He has to come to the house, do an inspection, make sure that we don't have any firearms, all this bullshit. And then we got to go see the sergeant major regarding this incident. So we go see the sergeant major, and he was pissed, right? I mean, that's what sergeant majors do. So he proceeds to rip our ass a little bit. And then we got notified that the base colonel was really pissed. And so since that base colonel did what he did, I can't hunt or fish on a single military installation for the rest of my life.
No, Jesus.
So he yanks my privileges from any military installation. North Carolina yanks my hunting and fishing license for a year. But at the end of the day, I just look back at it and laugh because that game warden basically told us that he was fixing to ruin our lives. And there are times where I want to call him back and be a nice guy, but.
See how my life's going? Fuck you. No, so there's a couple things about that I remember. I won't mention some of the other people that were involved and or the weapons that were involved because that's not important right now. But there was whenever I got interrogated, and they were saying that the charges would be, I think it was like $1,000 per foot, meaning like the length of the alligator. Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, so basically because alligators were considered, it's not endangered, a threatened species, because of that part of North Carolina, which never made any sense to me because you could travel an hour and a half south and across the South Carolina border, and there was a legal hunting season for alligators. Yeah. Right? Because they have a shortened growing season, that was where that dollar per foot came, right? And so I think our alligator was somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 foot. I mean, I'm not going to come out here and say it was 22
Yeah,
foot.
no, that's what I remember.
It was 18 foot. It was like fish. It was huge. It was.
That's right.
I just remember that when they were telling me it's $1,000 per foot, and they were going to charge the two of you $4,500. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That's $9,000. I'm like, that motherfucker only got 4 feet, you know. So like fucking like it's an alligator. They only got 4 feet. You know what I'm saying? So that's $4,000 split between two people. That's $2,000.
That's
So
too
I'm like, you're fucking them. You're charging them
You
double.
should have argued
You
that.
know?
You should have argued that.
No, I did. That's why like they're like, you know what? We're not talking to this fucking guy anymore.
That's right. They gave up on TJ. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like,
You
you're
only had
fucking
4
them.
You only had 4 feet. You're really fucking them.
$1,000 per foot. Like you only got 4 feet. You know, shit, dude. $4,000.
This story blew my mind, man. I mean, we went to Afghanistan. I think we ended up getting deployed. It was 6 months, 9 months later, and I'm standing guard duty at one of the gates there for Mouse 40, and one of these kids that was standing guard with me comes up. He's like, "Yo, you're from New River, right?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Did you hear about those guys that killed that alligator out there?" And I said, "No shit." I said, "How'd you hear about those guys?" And he like Marine Corps Times, he pulls up this article and he's like all about it. And I'm like, well, you met one of them, right? Like, I mean, I don't know what else you want me to do. I don't know if this is a good Marine Corps famous or not, but yeah, that story hung around for a while.
No, any Marine Corps famous is good Marine Corps famous because I had a few of those.
Yeah.
And every single time it got me out of a lot of shit, or me and or like the people involved. Dark
Any
medley.
publicity is good publicity.
But
fair enough, right?
And that's why you're famous.
No, that's probably my most significant story from North Carolina, if you will. And TJ had his own involvement in that, but
yeah, we're not going to talk about this.
Neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
The one time I didn't go to fucking court for something, like beautiful. It was beautiful.
Good for you getting out of something, man.
Yeah, right? Like shit.
TJ had enough
shit. Killing it.
We just had to take care of it. Then the neighbor across the street, man, she had some snakeskin boots on. I don't know if you remember that, but she came out on her front that next day and she was showing off them snakeskin or alligator skin boots or whatever. And,
I was just gonna say, did you make any alligator skin boots or?
Man, we had it all set up. We had it all set up to we processed it. So we did some YouTubing, right? The DNR officer, the game warden, did not believe us, but we YouTubed basically how to process an alligator. And the biggest piece of it was to make the meat edible. It had to be soaked in salt water for 24 hours, help kind of kill and some of the bacteria. And so all the meat was diced up in baggies in the freezer. We had the skin cut and laid out on like a 2x6. And man, we presented all that. He was hot. He's like, bullshit, this is your first damn alligator. And he was trying to hem us up because I guess at the same time, somebody was hooking them on New River. And they were trying to bait alligators on New River. And so they were trying to pin us on those too, right? So, I mean, it stemmed for a little while a pretty significant case. But once they realized that we had nothing to do with the ones on New River.
Well, those the guys that are using the spring traps?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know who the fuck would have done that. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's so weird.
So,
but anyway, so
anyway,
with the that was definitely me. I caught this right at the armory though when you're driving down the road. You remember that big ass bar ditch, like right behind the armory? Yeah, so I caught a 4 foot, or I know it was like a 3 foot gator, and I tied him to a cinder block and put him in my shower, and it's a long story as to why I did all this, but that didn't turn out very well. Because like you weren't allowed to have like females in your room past like 10 o'clock or whatever the fuck the rule was.
Apparently, you weren't allowed to keep gators in your room past 10 o'clock either.
So first off, that wasn't a rule, right? So like, show me the regulations where it says you can do this, and I'm like, how about you show me the regulations where it says I can't fucking do this?
Can't do this.
Yeah, it's not there, so fuck off, But so I tied an alligator up in my shower. Okay, we shared. So we shared showers like with the next room over. Your headmates, right?
I love that you just had a gator in your room.
Yeah, no, I do. He wasn't in my room. Like I'm not some sort of savage. I just tied him up, put him in my shower. But anyway, my headmate, so the guy who lived in the next room over from me, he was a fucker. He would never clean. So every field day, like y'all remember field days, like everybody would like clean the fuck out of your room. And then if they found like one hair or like like white glove inspection, they find you dusty.
They
You
come
fucking
and
fell,
swipe
you
the
know.
top of your fridge, and you're like,
Yeah,
damn it.
yeah. And like they go like behind your fucking toilet or like up like it. Listen, you could not have ice in your fucking freezer.
Yep.
If there was ice in your freezer, you would fail. And I'm like,
Yes.
then explain to me what the fuck a freezer is used for. Doesn't make any goddamn sense. But anyway, so yeah, so I had an alligator tied up in my shower. So the guy that
It's the
lived next
greatest
door to
shit
me,
ever.
he never cleaned the bathrooms at all, and like we shared the bathroom, and so I was just fucking over it, him not ever helping, and like it wasn't that he didn't help. I really didn't care about that. It was just the fact that I would clean it, and then I don't know if he was on a different shift than me or like he went to work like a few hours after I did or whatever. But he would always take a shower and like brush his teeth and shave and shit, like after our NCOs went through and inspected our rooms and everything. So I always fucking fail field day inspection. And he was like, "Well, I don't know why you failed. Like I keep my shit clean." I'm like, "Yeah, like fuck you. You're a piece of shit." Like, but anyway, he also had his girlfriend living in the room with him, which it was illegal. And so I just thought it'd be funny to tie this alligator up in the shower. And then when she goes to like, draw the curtain back and get in the shower, there's a fucking alligator in there, And it was funny because like she flipped the fuck out like I figured she would. And then like she took it a little bit too far, like called 911 and shit because she had an alligator in the shower. But yeah. But whatever.
You didn't kill it though, so that's a win.
I didn't. No, I ended up letting it go back in the same ditch I caught him from. But yeah, and actually, I never got any trouble for it at all because as soon as she was screaming, I was like, "Yep, she found him. Time for me to get rid of the evidence." So I went and
alligator.
released him, And I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like that. First off, you have this civilian bitch living in the fucking barracks, which is illegal. Secondly, she's making claims on me that's just outlandish. I don't know why she would do that. Like, I'm like, do you see? Like, do I look? I'm from Oklahoma, man. Like, we only have like a couple alligators in Oklahoma. Like, what? Who the fuck? Like, why would I go catch alligators? That's fucking stupid. I'm like, that makes sense. And I was like, right?
Yeah. For one, that's dumb.
Yeah.
For two, why would I do that?
For three,
you're breaking the fucking
Who the
rules.
fuck? First off, who jumps in a ditch and catches an alligator and duct tapes his mouth shut and ties it to a center block and puts him in the shower? That's fucking stupid. I don't know who'd do that.
Yeah, that'd be stupid as hell. Who'd do that?
But, yeah. Well, I mean, it happened, but I never got any trouble for it because they couldn't prove it. Yeah. But it's coming from the same people. It's coming from the same people that back whenever I was like, trying to work out and shit, they my chocolate protein powder, they decided to tell me that it was chocolate flavored cocaine. And then they also decided that my deer grunt call, anybody who is a deer hunter or a hunter in general knows what a grunt call sounds like. But like the barrel it's a wooden barrel with like a like a plastic tube that you can accordion style, fold in, fold out, blah blah blah. Just bleh, I'm like, do you smoke weed out of this? I'm like, no. First off, I don't smoke weed at all. Oh no, I'm sorry, it was spice. So spice was the
big thing, yes.
Yeah. It was like the synthetic version of weed, right? And I'm like, even if I tried to smoke you can't smoke tobacco out of plastic because it'll fucking melt when you try to light it. But yeah, they tried to burn me for having paraphernalia for smoking illegal substances, even though it's plastic. And then they also tried to get me for having chocolate flavored cocaine. And I was like, which the chocolate flavored cocaine was the chocolate protein powder. And I'm like, listen, if I have chocolate cocaine, then I'm going to have some money because I'm going to have the best fucking cocaine around this fucking state. Ain't nobody I've ever heard of has chocolate flavored cocaine. You know what I'm saying? So like they spent, I don't know how many thousands of dollars to send all my shit off to the labs to get tested and shit. for no fucking reason. Just because. I mean, granted, yes, I was a fuckhead. I did get in a lot of trouble. Whatever. But who the fuck has chocolate cocaine? That's all I want to know. Like,
Yeah,
chocolate.
if it exists, I want to know where it's at.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, it's just a bunch of crazy shit, man. But along with that, dude, I think do you remember that Trans Am I got from Wood?
Yes, I do, the black one, because it sat in our garage for a little while.
Yeah, dude.
Yes. Trans brake on it, everything.
Yeah, dude, it was a bad bitch. So I took that motherfucker to the track down there, and I remember Wood telling me, he's like, don't push the trans brake button unless you're like ready to fucking rock. I'm like, whatever, dude. So me being the dipshit hillbilly I was, I pushed that button and decided to launch it. And when I did, like the whole motherfucker, like, when it took off, it's like boom, boom, launched both fucking T-tops off of that motherfucker, dude.
Damn.
Yeah, scared the shit out of me because I was not prepared for that, And I guess it was just because the way it tweaked it whenever I took off. And then I called Wood. I'm like, dude, like, what the fuck? He's like, I told you not to push the fucking trans brake. And I'm like, I took it to the track, dude. Like, that's where I was supposed to push the trans brake.
That's right.
And he was like, oh, it's all good, man. He's like, I got an extra set right here. I'm like, fucking sweet, man. But
what'd you get it up to?
I didn't, man. Like, so as soon as I took off and like the front end came off the ground and the T-tops blew off of it, I pushed out. Because I wasn't expecting it. Like, it's, one of them things. But it was
right.
Yeah, man. So I also got in trouble with that car. Do you remember the Gas Donalds?
The name rings a bell, but
It was a gas station had the McDonald's in it, like right there, right by the main gate of Lejeune. I don't remember the name of the roads.
there was 17, and then that main drag that took you to the other Walmart, right?
Yeah, but you had like the main road that took like to the Lowe's and Home Depot, like all that bullshit. So you come up there and then you get back on 17 or to 71 or whatever to go to New River.
Yep.
That fucking gas station had the Gas Donalds in it. So it was a gas station with McDonald's or whatever. Fucking there was a bunch of cool kids hanging out with their fucking Honda Civics and shit. So I thought I was gonna be funny and like let them know what a real car sounds like because they had like the 455 olds in it and shit. And whenever I took off at the light, I turned the car completely sideways accidentally because I didn't know like the power I was dealing with. And then the guy behind me wrecked when that happened. So then I had to stop and then go back and like help these guys out because he rolled his fucking car through the ditch.
He rolled his car?
Yeah, well, he had a Jeep.
Oh.
So whenever like I spun sideways or whatever, and like I don't know what the fuck he was doing because like he didn't hit me or anything, but he fucking rolled his Jeep down the fucking ditch. And so that was like, I don't know, probably at that point, like probably the 5th or 6th time that I had to go to PMO on base when they arrested me. But crazy shit, man.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, they did the cool car club like all the time.
We should at least touch on mental health while we're here. I don't know how to dive into that. I don't really know how to what do you call that? Segue into it. That's the word I was looking for. Segue. So we go from gators in your bathtub to mental health. Mentally, how did having a gator in the tub go for you?
For me, it went great because like it definitely like 100% boosted my morale. You know what I'm saying? Because I went from like this place fucking sucks. I hate being here, and then hearing that dude's girlfriend fucking like scream and call 911 just made me so warm and fuzzy inside that like all the negative thoughts just washed away like going down a fucking waterfall, dude.
That's great. So Loren, I'm sure you've seen some stuff in your day, doing what you've been doing. You've been doing the fire thing here for a while now. I think I know how I'll segue this mental health bit in here. So you've probably seen some stuff. Can you explain any of what some of the things you've seen are, some of the calls that you've been on? I know with, like our fire marshals, you're going in houses where there's people burnt up, etc. I'm sure you've dealt with some of that in your day.
Yeah, so actually this year, I think I just ran a total on it. I think I've had close to 15 cases, and I think I've dealt with 12 fatalities, right, just this year.
No kidding.
And yeah, I mean it's a very sad ordeal in Oklahoma. For we can get on that topic for a different day, but for fire safety in the homes. But yeah, as far as the mental health piece, man, one thing I've realized is talking alone, right? Just the ability for somebody to simply get what's on their mind off their chest. And that's what I relay to my guys as a captain at a fire department and as an agent for the state. The biggest thing that I get out there is just don't be afraid to talk about it, right? Like they may not necessarily understand to the extent that we do, right? Some of the stuff that we talk about we may have dealt with, or some of the demons that we all have, right? But we all have them.
Well, so no one's. You're not gonna be seen as less of a man for bringing emotions out and talking about all the shit that you have dealt with, right?
Correct. That's the biggest piece. I mean, if there's anything that you can do to ease your mind, I mean, faith, family, and just getting it out on your own, right? I mean, if whether you believe in my God, whether you believe in your God, whatever you believe in, use it. But use family and use the brotherhood that we've developed in our time from the Corps, and reach out to anybody for that matter, man. I use my family a lot. My wife, God bless her, but she's got to put up with a lot of that when I get home because, fire doesn't discriminate. I've gone from babies to elderly, right? And that stuff weighs on everybody. And so being able to come home, being able to talk about it, finding your core group that will listen to you. For me, I have what we call a life group. And basically it's just a group of first responders, and we get together, once or twice a month, first responders and our spouses. And basically we just do just this, man. We cover any topics from the recent month that are on our heads, on our minds, and help to get some of that stuff off our chest and kind of work through it. But I really can't stress enough how simply just talking about it really helps to kind of lessen those demons.
Right. It's like faith, family, love, I guess, if you will. Yeah, just kind of actually getting it off your chest, talking about it, not being afraid to talk about it. I mean, it's important. I mean, it really is. Do you guys have any like protocols in place for if there's a serious incident?
So we will. I've got to look and see what our protocols are as far as anything at my level, because I really haven't looked at that. Most of the time, it's just the other agents that weren't directly involved with the incident, kind of reaching out, making sure you don't need anything.
Right.
But at my level, as a leader of the fire service at the state level, I try to help orchestrate any of what we would call a critical incident stress debriefing, right, or a highly traumatic event that the fire department has just gone through, whether it be a child death or a multi fatality fire that they've just dealt with. We help to get those, similar to the Wounded Warrior Project, but at a more local level, getting those team of representatives available and sending them out to that fire department to be able to debrief these guys or gals and make sure that this isn't going to be a traumatic experience that they take with them too much longer past the incident, right? The idea is to get it off of their chest, vent, cry, whatever their coping mechanism is, to get it going so that they don't have to take all of this home.
So do you guys have like a chaplain per se, or like somebody who's designated in that position?
In my office, no, I do not. I mean, we probably do, but I've never had to use them, right? So I'm not going to say that I don't have that. But we have resources throughout the state that we would rely on, and we could probably use those same resources in-house for us if we needed it as well.
Yeah.
It's pretty helpful. I mean, I love that you're talking about just wanting to get people to talk about it. I think that is one of the more important things that you can do is get it off your chest, get off your plate. It's still going to be there, but if you talk about it, it's not weighing as much on your shoulders. It really kind of gets it out there. Well, then you're not alone in the fight.
Well, yeah. So as soon as somebody opens up, then it's gonna show to other people that it's okay for them to open up as well. And once you can talk about things freely and realize like you're not the only person going through like these fucking issues and having these problems, then that's gonna help a lot. Just knowing that you're not alone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's so many people out there that struggle. And I think we do. I think we get caught up thinking we're alone and fighting things. It's just like you're not alone. You're not sitting there having to deal with things by yourself. You've got somebody there with you.
I feel like that this is the biggest piece, similar to y'all, in the fact that you've also let someone else know that you're dealing with this to enable that check-in process, right? We were just talking about this before the show, but we've recently lost, two members that we served with, and I feel like had we known that something was going on, maybe it wouldn't have changed the outcome. Maybe it would have, but I feel like it would have opened up another conversation. That could have
opens up the dialogue.
And that's what we're trying to do here is just to let people know that it's okay to not be okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to pretend that, like everybody deals with shit, right? So you don't have to act like, like this shit happened, whatever, like fucking, I'm a big, strong man. Like, I'll deal with it. Sometimes obviously like that doesn't fucking work, So if you need to talk to somebody, then somebody like you need to have somebody that will listen to you and receive that and not be like, well, sounds like you're being a bitch. I mean, and I get it sometimes, like, the tough love thing, sometimes you got to use that, but there comes a point in time where like you have to have somebody that will listen to you also, right? So like,
at the end of the day, we have to be a resource that listens.
Exactly. And I think what you're getting at with the our most recent two that we had were, man, it was just still stuck in that old school, like men don't talk about feelings, and if you talk about feelings then you're being a pussy, or you're quit being a bitch. And it's not like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, if something's really like 100% like affecting your lifestyle and affecting the way you're living your life, you should be able to have somebody you can talk to about that, who will listen and empathize with you and try to work through that with you, rather than just saying, man up. Because
I mean,
like,
I get that 100%. I mean, that's hitting home, because I mean, this morning, I woke up to for me, it was a pretty devastating, giant text message. But, I sat there and the first thing I did was like, I need to reach out to somebody. It was 5 a.m. when I got it. It got sent to me at 1, and I kind of just stewed on it. And like 5 a.m, I had to reach out to somebody. So I reached out to my friends, and I knew one of them was awake. So I reached out to him, and he was like, hey man, that sucks. Like, I'm sorry to hear all this. And it was nice to have somebody else there in the boat with me, to be like, oh, I can bounce this off them. I'm not getting judged. There's no judgment. There's no, passive aggressive, oh, hey, you're being a Sally about this. It's just, it's having somebody there. It's having a team is really what it is. And it's nice to have a team.
Well, and as cliche or as, I don't know, like kumbaya as it sounds, like having a fucking support group, man. You know, like everybody needs a support group. You know what I'm saying? And I'm
Yeah,
not
they
talking
do.
like just sitting around like in a drum circle smoking weed, as much as I wish that I was part of a drum circle smoking weed. But what I'm getting at though is like like having somebody you can talk to, man, like somebody that will understand what you're going through, but also at the same time, like not be. We don't have to be the macho man all the fucking time. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, we've talked about this many, many times before. Like I'm a air quote toxic masculinity, which I don't believe in, because toxic masculinity, for what everybody wants to say it is, the feminists or whatever, like that's just a dude being a fucking dick. So don't be a dick, you know. But you have to understand that people go through shit, you know, and what might seem like a small thing to me could be a huge thing to Derek, could be a huge thing to you, Loren, you know, because I'm not you guys, you know, I'm me, and y'all are you. You know what I'm saying? So you just having empathy and understanding that each situation affects every individual differently than it might affect you, you know. And just don't be a fucking cocksucker and try to help out your homies, you know.
Yeah, be there for them. You know, always be there for your buddies. That's the biggest thing that I can stress to anyone is be there. Uh, you know, I've opened up a million times on here. I think TJ has too. Doesn't matter, 24/7, 365 a year. If you need something, just don't be afraid to reach out. I think that's what it all
100%.
comes down to. We need people that are willing to listen, that are willing to understand and be there for people. And that seems like a pretty rare commodity anymore. You know, it seems
Yeah.
like
And
with
that's
all this
sad,
technology,
honestly.
with all this technology, with all the resources we have, the fact that it's so hard to find somebody that like will make time for you, it blows my mind. And I guess I don't know how you feel about the like men's mental health, Lauren, but you know, for us, at least I know where we sit, it's just there's no availability for men to really sit there and be like, I'm having problems.
So, well, all right. So we talk about men's mental health. We are obviously here for everybody, right? But as far as that goes, women. So in today's society, is what I'm going to say. If you see a woman crying, somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, well, like you know, something happened to her, or whatever. Not a big deal." You see a man crying, like one of your first thoughts is like, "What the fuck? He's a bitch," because men don't cry, right? And that shit's just not fucking working anymore. Is what I'm saying. Like it's
There's definitely a stigma, right?
yeah, 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 100%,
A
100%.
man showing emotion,
Yeah,
you know, and maybe that's why it's more difficult for any of us to show emotion, is because we don't want that other set of eyes putting that judgment on us, right? We're not a bitch, right?
yeah,
But at the same time, there comes a time in everybody's life where that breakdown has to happen for you to move on, right?
right.
Like that, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, man. Is your plate is going to get so full of the traumatic experiences, right, or of just the day-to-day bullshit that a
Yeah.
breakdown is imminent. And if you don't process that breakdown, or you don't utilize that breakdown, worse shit happens.
Well, so what? All right. So with what you're saying there is, if just think of like a water balloon, right? Like, so I remember being a little kid or whatever, going out. We had these balloons and shit. Like we'd put them on the fucking water faucets outside, and you fill them up, and then you don't want to fill them too full. That way you can still tie them off and throw them at your, you know, brothers, cousins, whatever, whoever was your friends, whatever's there. But like, if you did just sit there and let that water balloon fill up too much before you pulled it off the faucet, then eventually it's just going to bust, right?
Right.
So I mean, like, if you don't have, you have to be able to know when to pull that balloon off, and also know when to, on the same aspect, like know when that you need to fucking vent,
Yep.
because eventually, if you get too full of shit, you're just going to explode, right? And in the society that we live in, where men aren't allowed to have feelings or, be emotional or whatever, and you have nobody to vent to, then what's going to happen? It's going to be the same as you filling that fucking water balloon up as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just going to fucking bust, and that water balloon's fucking worthless now because it's fucked. You know what I'm saying? And that's
I just saw a comment come through talking about we were not taught how to show emotion.
Well, because men aren't allowed to.
Right, and that's exactly where I'm kind of taking this is, I just took a class not too long ago on explaining the importance of showing emotion, and kind of the water balloon metaphor that you just used. Right, that's exactly it. Like we've taken that men are so quick triggered, or they're hyper aggressive, or these other traits, these other factors. Well, if you trace that back, a lot of those emotions or those triggers or whatever you want to call it are those post-traumatic triggers, right? Like that water balloon's gotten to the point where it's fixing to pop, and now every little thing that you throw on top of it is just one more thing that's ready to, it's just going to go.
Yeah, it's just going back right into that water balloon. That's just going to expand it more and more until eventually it's not going to have any more space to expand, and it's just going to blow.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a boiling pot. You hit a certain temperature and you're overflowing, and the only thing you can do is, like throw an ice cube in there to cool it down just a little bit. There's little things that you can do to try to prevent that from over boiling, So you have to sit there and really find what works for you, and it's a matter of finding different healthy ways to vent, if you will.
So I really like that you brought up a boiling pot, right? So if you're boiling water and it's going to bubble over, right? One of the best things that you can do is either obviously remove the heat, or remove the pot from the heat, right? You know what I'm saying? Or you can stir it up. Right. So deflection, right? Which would be stirring up the water.
The pot.
Yeah. So deflection, you know what I mean? So but eventually the deflection only works for so long, right?
Yeah, eventually it's going to boil over whether you want it to or not.
Exactly. So you can deflect as much as you want to, right? You can, obviously I've had issues, you've had issues, and I know Loren's had issues. We all do, right? You can only deflect for so long until you have to go to the source, right? The heat is the source of why your water is boiling over, So you have to, you got to figure out. Well, you have to realize that you need to cut to the source to keep that pot from boiling over. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we have to cut the heat.
Energy, right? Like,
well, it's all the same shit. But as men, we don't want to admit to that, or it's because just generationally,
we do 8 million different things to try to solve the problem of the boiling pot, but we don't deal with the actual source of the heat. We know the source of the heat's the problem, but we don't know how to deal with that.
Listen, we'll throw an ice cube in that fucking water. We'll pour salt in there to keep it from boiling over. We'll do whatever you can,
but spoon on top of the bowl.
Yeah, hell yeah. But we don't do? We don't remove the water from the source of heat, which is us as men having issues and realizing that the problem is the fucking heat and the water. That's what's causing it to overflow, and us realizing as men that we need to fucking discuss our issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but it's the world we live in, and that's what we're trying to change, is make it okay to be able to talk about everything. It has to be okay. I know I come to you with everything, so.
Yeah, man. Well, and and it's the same thing as like, you don't got to be a bitch about it. Like you don't have to. I come to Derek a lot with issues that I have. Derek comes to me a lot with issues that he has. But how many times have I called you where I'm crying, or have you called me where you're actually like literally crying?
We never do.
Exactly.
Because we've been taught so much that it's like you can't do that.
Well, that's for one point, but for another thing though is we don't let it get to that point because I realize that we need to fucking figure this shit out before it gets too far. You know what I'm saying?
dampen it.
Like,
We
but
dampen
again though, if I did call you and like I was just sobbing, like what would you do?
I'd probably sit there and listen, to be honest with you. But that's because we try to fight it. You know?
Well, so
10 years ago, I'd have told you, what the fuck is going on with you?
Quit being a bitch, man the fuck up, which is what we're trying to get away from. But I mean, it'd probably still be the same now. Be like real honest with you, like, but at first though, it would be like let's figure out what's going on, and we're gonna talk about it for a little bit, and then after we talked about it for you know, I'll say like a minute and a half to 2 minutes, then I'm gonna tell you quit being a bitch. You know what I'm saying? But it's gonna be at first we're gonna see like what the fuck, like why are you this deep into this? You know what I'm saying? Like, like what, like why are you sobbing? Like, are you just drunk? Like, are you just like, are you whiskey crying to me right now, or is this some serious shit? You know? And then once you figure that out, we're gonna listen to you. We're gonna try to figure it out the best that we know, which we're not fucking doctors. We don't know shit about shit, honestly. But until it gets to a certain point, we're not gonna start off telling you to quit being a bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, which is what we are used to. You know, as men in this country, air quoting this again for those of you that are not watching this, but that's like the go-to. Like don't be a bitch about it. You know, like fucking man up or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And that's not the fucking answer, man. Because like we've had way too many of our friends killing themselves recently. I mean, shit, since 2008, since I joined the Marine Corps, you know, like I've lost more friends from suicide than I lost in the war. You know what I'm saying? And that's fucking crazy to me. Like, blows my fucking mind, honestly. Like when you cut down to it and like really think about it. Whenever I was in Afghanistan and Joe got killed, I was right there with him when that happened, and it's still it's just wild to me that the things that happened, like you're in war, right? Like people die in war, you know what I'm saying? And it just blows my mind that whenever you have people that are killing themselves at a faster rate back home, like in America, not like a third world country, like not where, you know, like your girls are not allowed to learn go to school after the age of 11. Like we're in fucking America, you know what I'm saying? Like you still have people killing themselves at a faster rate here in the greatest country in the world than you do of people dying in an actual combat situation.
It's a sad statistic, but
it's fucked up.
It's definitely an epidemic right now on all levels. I mean, I don't have the statistics in front of me now, but just getting out of the police academy, we went over a lot of suicide statistics for, you know, vets, law enforcement, you know, first responders in general, just the whole core group. And I mean, the numbers of people being lost to their own demise is just it's
people in their own heads. Like you're losing numbers to people in their own minds.
And I think go ahead.
No, you're good.
I think another big piece is we are here and trying to get people to talk about their emotions, talk about their feelings. But on the other half, we touched on it briefly, but the ability to listen and reciprocate that communication is just as important, right? 100%. So if anybody that's listening to this show now, though you may not be dealing with your own issues, if somebody comes to you with those issues, you've got to be willing to take the time out of your day and listen to them. Just let it come to you. Just recently, I had a buddy that we served with in New River reached out to me on Facebook, right? All he had to do was vent. That's all he wanted to do. So I gave him the time of day to vent, and I feel like he's doing better now. But you've got to be willing to listen when folks come to you with these issues too. So
100%, man. So like, first off, if there's a guy reaching out to you saying he's having issues, then that means he's having fucking issues. You know what I'm saying? Because it's hard enough for a man to admit that he's at this point, right? And then the fact that he's actually like, opening up to you about things that means shit's getting real in their world, It might not mean much to you. Like, so again, it goes back to like it, and for like full well, you go to a scene where, say, like a car accident, right? Those people, it's probably the worst day of their lives, right? But to you, it's just another Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? But to them, that's the worst day of their lives. So like, you have to have the empathy for that family, knowing that, yeah, it's just like part of my job or whatever, but to them, it's the worst day of their life, right? So like, it's perception. Everybody has they see things differently, right?
No, I'm a huge advocate for the quote, perception is reality, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're
definitely.
perceiving this situation a lot different than you are because you've seen a similar situation, 20 times before, right? You've had to do this. But for them, you're exactly right. They've never had to deal with a situation. Their house just burnt down, right? Or somebody just got sent to the hospital in a bad car accident. They've never had to deal with that. And so when you get these phone calls or these messages, it's obvious that your buddy has never had to deal with this or hasn't been to this level before, right? And this is starting to creep into their well-being. And once it starts to creep into that well-being and their day-to-day livelihood is at risk, you've got to be able to listen to them and call and get them back to where they need to be.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, shit, it's just like April 19th, the tornado that went through Cole, and it fucked up everything. Like, my entire family lives in Cole. It fucked all that up, and then it went straight north for, all the way up to Shawnee, and it missed you by like 3 blocks.
Yeah, I think a half a mile at one point is where the nearest damage is up here to our north and and east. But yeah, I mean, it completely leveled. If anybody's familiar with Shawnee, basically MacArthur and Kickapoo, which is our business district, it basically rode Kickapoo all the way up to the mall. I mean, all of our businesses, we've still got probably half of our businesses along that Kickapoo strip are still closed, right? I mean, yeah.
And that's a lot, man. Like, especially for my community here, because like we've never really dealt with something of that extent from tornadoes, and like it wiped out a lot of shit, and it fucked up a lot of people, And I mean, hell, I spent like 4 days going through there, and I will say I'm not gonna name any names or anything, but man, there was like 3 days afterwards that we were still like rescuing people out of their houses that could not get out of their houses after that tornado hit.
We had a couple of calls the next day for folks that were trapped in houses. I think the city did a good job at taking care of the city, but where you and I are in rural Oklahoma, we don't have as many resources as these bigger metropolitan areas, and unfortunately, that's a reality for those folks that live in the rural communities.
Well, the part, honestly, like for me, the part that pisses me off the most is like when you watch the news channels, is they only touch on, like, we had tornadoes. So I'll say last season, last tornado season, we had a tornado going through Edmond, and they're like, "Oh, there's a tornado in Edmond." It's like an EF1, right? We had an EF3 going through fucking McLean County where I live down here, and we're like, "Well, where the fuck's it at?" And like, they're like, "Oh, there's a tornado there," but all of our viewers are up here, so this is the area of coverage that we're going to get on the news. And I was like, "That's fucking stupid," because they were not covering at all anything that was happening with the tornado in our area.
Right.
But all they were worried about was where their viewers were, because the, mass amount of people that watch their station or whatever. And I'm like, well, you realize like there's still people that are going to lose their fucking lives because you are not covering this whatsoever. Yes, we do have modern telephones in Oklahoma.
Sure where to answer that.
All you got to do is you got to stick your finger in a little hole and you spin it a few times.
Just spin it a few times.
And it makes a few real loud dings, But,
This
is
modern technology guy here.
You swing one of them telephones and crack a motherfucker upside the head. Just a beautiful sound.
Oh, man. Boy. But, yeah, I tell you what. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about all that in Oklahoma. And it sucks. And we'll be praying and thinking about you. In the meantime, we've been here a little over an hour. I think we wrap it up and kind of take things home.
Yeah.
If that makes sense to you guys. Yep. That being said, Loren, we usually ask what we took from tonight's episode. What did you take from tonight's episode?
The biggest thing I took, guys, is just to push, if anything, communication when it comes to mental health. That is the biggest thing that we can take away and we can give out, right? Is just to find a way to remove that heat source from underneath that pot.
Yeah, absolutely. TJ, what did you take from that?
Man, I think Loren pretty well nailed it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just again, as I always say, don't be a fucking cocksucker. If somebody reaches out to you and they're having issues, have a little bit of empathy, listen to what they have to say, try to see yourself in their shoes, and try to give them the best advice at that time as you can, and just try to be a better person, because I feel like in today's world we don't, nobody gives a fuck about knowing but themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I get it, but at the same time, like if all your fucking homies are killing themselves, then you need to reevaluate where you're at in their shoes also, because they're not comfortable enough to reach out to you. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't fucking listen.
Yeah.
So
I like that. I took from tonight, TJ had a fucking gator in his tub, and I think that's pretty awesome. And everything you guys said, but especially the gator in the tub, that was awesome. I didn't know that. I think that's funny as shit.
It wasn't a real big alligator. I mean, he's like 3 foot long. Whatever, I caught him in the bar ditch. I caught him in the bar ditch outside the armory. Whatever.
Yeah, what do you do? But no, I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, hit up the page. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Facebook as the Shadow Mark Society of Misfits. And then we're on Instagram as Shadow Mark Podcast. You please, if I just give us a like, hit us up on the whatever you listen to podcast on. Give us a like there. Give us a little review, if you will. And we appreciate you guys. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Hey, give us reviews. Positive reviews, hopefully.
Yeah, because we don't want your negative shit. But if you want to send that to us in a private message, we'll listen.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because we are trying to better ourselves.
Yeah.
Better ourselves as we're bettering our listeners.
That's what we're here for. Thanks for listening, guys. Until next time.